Garcia, and we're going to be joined by our good friends here and colleagues from Project Spurs, Jonas Clark and Robert Trejo. We're going to be recapping the Spurs and Bucks scrimmage game. The Spurs, let's go ahead and just, dive right in and say what needs to be said. Well, we'll start off with you, Jonas. The Spurs, they lost a game, this scrimmage game, and it was just a scrimmage game. They looked good in the first half, and they kind of hung tight there with the Bucks, but midway through the third, the wheels came off, and unfortunately, turnovers played a big factor in the outcome of this game. But what did you see in tonight's game, Jonas?
I think you saw a young roster have a lot of fun out there. Even though it wasn't always, maybe the smoothest sailing, and it definitely wasn't the result they were out there to try to get. But early on, you saw Rudy Gay smiling, even off of some just odd mistakes. And as you scroll NBA Twitter, you see these mistakes are really common all across the NBA right now because this is the first action we're really getting. They haven't played, and as many of us had the Bucks commentary, I don't think anybody had the Spurs commentary. But with the Bucks commentary, you can kind of hear and see that this was new for everybody. Nobody's gone up really against their other players heavy in drills. So even if you're, this is your first time really running through a lane right now where you got somebody coming at you full speed, because even in the inner squad, in team scrimmages and practices, nobody's really going all that out because you don't want to hurt your teammates. So this is trying to get back in shape. Obviously, again, not the result you wanted, but we got treated to a great surprise of Becky giving the reins today. That was awesome to be able to see her and how she was adjusting, and giving the young guys some run. And you could really see, I think, her impact on this team because there were moments you could see her speaking to a player and then they adjusted their game, pretty quickly within their next possession or so. And just the way they responded, they reacted, they had fun out there, and let's not forget we got that highlight reel with Derek White and DeJounte on that alley oop. It was beautiful. You love to see it, and I think it's just the beginning of what we're going to see here on this young group in Orlando.
Yeah, no doubt. And we already got somebody chiming in and watching us here. We got Tim Rodriguez on YouTube chiming in. So what's up, Tim? Thanks for tuning in and watching. Robert, let's go ahead and go to you, man. Let's pitch to you. What did you see in tonight's scrimmage game?
Yeah, it was good to see the Spurs just be competitive again out there on the basketball floor. I mean, I think we got to see two really good quarters out of the Spurs in today's matchup against Milwaukee. And like Jonas said, it was all about conditioning, getting that run. And, we can critique about it all we want. I'm sure we're all thankful and grateful that we get to critique Spurs basketball again right now. It's a breath of fresh air. I know that. But out of tonight's game, there was a lot of positives. There were some negatives that we can look at. Because at the end of the day, we still want to win. We still want to be competitive, but it was against Milwaukee, the best team in the league, against the MVP. We all know that. So let's not put too much stake into the win and the loss column. And then we'll talk about some things that we like and that we didn't like. And can't wait to do that with you guys. Let's get into it.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start getting into it. One of the things that really kind of stood out at me was, I got to see some fan favorites out there. You got to see Keldon Johnson get some run out there, and he looked pretty good. We got to see a little bit of Quindary Weatherspoon. We even got to see some of Luka Samanic in limited play. They even put out Tyler Zeller out there for a whole 30 seconds, Jonas, a whole 30 seconds. Not even a minute.
30.
They didn't even put him out there on the stat sheet. He played less than 0 minutes because he did. He didn't play one full minute. He played 30 seconds. So he didn't make the roster sheet. Not the roster, but the stat sheet, the box score. But you also saw Bryn Forbes out there. You also saw Marco Beninelli. And to Marco's credit, he's not my favorite player, but Marco looked good out there. Looked like he lost a little weight. He was a little bit more fluid with his motion out there, still moving without the ball, doing that, really well. So we saw him out there, and unfortunately, to the chagrin of some of the Spurs Nation and Spurs Twitter out there, they're like, oh no, here comes Marco again. Here comes Bryn again.
I think all the ping pong and the cornhole was good for Marco and Bryn.
I think
A lot
so.
of
There
their
you go.
I think so. Some of the Spurs, look like they kind of bulked up a little bit. DeJounte looked like he bulked up a little bit. And I have to say that Lonnie Walker looked like he kind of bulked up, hitting the weight room a little bit too. So I noticed that right away. The Spurs looked a little sluggish, as we stated. But, both teams were just shaking off that rust. I was very proud of the Spurs for being competitive with the Milwaukee Bucks for the first two quarters, keeping them at bay and basically exchanging shots, and kind of both teams looked like they were filling each other out. And you got to give credit, as Jonas had alluded to as well, to Rudy Gay. And he played stellar defense against Giannis Antetokounmpo. He played defense really well. He got Giannis in foul trouble. What was it before the half ended? I think he had five fouls already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so credit Rudy Gay for that, So the old man still has game, Jonas.
Yeah, and I mean, I've never really questioned it. I know a lot of people have. They say he's looking old at 33 years old.
Or he's looking
but,
sluggish.
Yeah, and last year was just his second year coming back off of that Achilles, I believe it was. And you could already see maybe him start to take a step back. Of course, he's not the athletic 26-year-old that he once was, but I'm not either. When I was 24, I was running marathons, and now I'm struggling my way through a 5K right now.
You were a swimmer too, so you fit in a Speedo back then.
I fit pretty well in a Speedo back then too. But no, I mean it's great to see him out there and getting run, but I wouldn't expect to see a lot of it because again, we do know that the emphasis, as Rudy was the first one to allude to, and it's been kind of the message coming out of the organization ever since that this whole Orlando experience is going to be more about development over winning. So kind of like you guys were saying, there's nothing we can be too disappointed into today just because now we have a benchmark. Like whenever you're trying to develop something, you have to have a benchmark for where you started at and where you're going and where you end at. And that shows whether the development was a process or was a success or not.
Yeah.
So today was just our benchmark. And you saw the young Spurs group hang with, the best team in the NBA for an entire first half. You saw a lot of mental errors and stuff like that, but even despite those, I think it was at the end of the first half, the 13 turnover, 13-7 or something like that difference. We were still right there in the game, and so for all of that, you can really appreciate what they're going through right now, and then as we make this next game against Brooklyn. You look for fewer mistakes. You look for more minutes. You look for a little bit more cohesiveness. We ran a lot of zone defense today, and it didn't really work out. Especially our bigs seemed lost in space, which gave Giannis too many opportunities to just drive to the hoop. Or you found a Robin Lopez open for a mid-range 2 or even a deep 3. Those kinds of mistakes, that's the development benchmark. So now we're going to move forward. We have another game on Saturday. On to the next one. It's, just a scrimmage. So win or lose, this doesn't even impact our chances in the Orlando bubble right now. But you want to see that process start after, moving on after today.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things, too, that... Oh, look, Tim Rodriguez says, Joe, why did we sign Zeller? He looked like ass out there. Zeller only got to play 30 seconds, bro.
Yeah,
He's insurance. He's insurance.
Watch the game a little bit more. That's all I'm going to say there.
Zeller is just insurance, as we had stated in prior episodes. He's there just in case somebody gets injured, something happens. At least we have somebody who's going to fill that roster spot and can go out there and is a body to play some minutes. That's what Zeller's going to do at the bubble, for the foreseeable future with his tenure with the Spurs for the rest of the season. But moving on, one of the things I wanted to kind of highlight there is, did you all catch that dunk by Drew Eubanks? He just killed somebody out on the court, bro.
Ooh,
how do you miss it?
They gave him a personal foul.
Taunting foul. It was a taunting foul.
I was like, come on, man. That's a no call. There was nothing wrong with that play, taunting,
The
however you want to
only
say it.
thing that
It
was
just felt
wrong
bad
is
for this dude.
yeah, the only thing that went bad with
They
that
got
play
put
is
in
he
a
didn't move out of the
coffin.
way.
That guy got put in a coffin, dude. His head bounced off the floor. It had nothing to do with Drew while he was on the floor.
Right.
And dudes do that all the time when they jam it on somebody. So I don't know what the big deal was. It just looked worse than what it was.
Yeah,
And the refs had to make a call. But man, it was dirty. Oof.
yeah,
Like
that
on
was
Drew's part
nasty.
though. Oh.
Oh
I like
yeah.
that. I like the stare down though. I gotta say, Drew was just looking
Well,
down to see that he wasn't gonna step on the guy on the way down. So
Drew took out a whole game's worth of frustration on that rim. I don't think he. I would go and say he didn't play that well this game. It took him the whole first half to even just kind of get the jitters out, but he started to move the ball well and just to get comfortable in the second half. But the minutes that he did get to play in there, but that jam he was out to hurt somebody.
yeah, that jam was
And he
nasty.
did.
Yeah, he did hurt someone.
And he
But
did, yeah.
I gotta say that looking forward um, to the next scrimmage games, I think the Spurs can take this as hey, it was a scrimmage game. We came out, we got to play against somebody else who wasn't our teammates. You got to play against a different team. You got to play against a different slew of players, different bodies out there, and it feels good to do those types of things, especially with your teammates that you go at hard in practice. So I think one of the key points that we can take away from this is, just like they alluded to, it's development. It's going to be, I think, frustrating at times for Spurs fans because they're going to expect that the Spurs are just going to come straight out of the gate and just go on a tear. That might not necessarily happen because if we want to see these youth develop and get experience and get playing minutes, it also comes with the price, and that price is going to be frustration because they're inexperienced, and the only way they're going to get better is by them getting more minutes out there on the court. I did like the fact that you saw a lot of Coach Becky being involved, especially on the sidelines with a lot of these younger players as they, were coming out of the game or there was a free throw being shot by the opposing team. They would go to the sideline and Coach Becky was there coaching them, telling them exactly what she wanted them to do out there on the court. Maybe something that they missed or some vital piece of information on how to guard somebody or play someone. I think those are vital pieces of information to the development of these younger players. So that was really refreshing to see. And Robert, you being a coach yourself, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I know. So one of the things that kind of flew under the radar in all this is that Tim Duncan didn't travel with the team and he's not there, and Pop. I mean, it's just scrimmage games. Usually, as in a head coach during a preseason, you do that on purpose a lot. Like you give a lot of extra responsibilities and extra opportunity to your coaching staff during a preseason or scrimmage games like this. And I think that's just a lot. That's just kind of what this was. I mean, Pop wasn't going to make a lot of adjustments because there were some times where I saw that they tried something new and it worked and then they went completely away from it the next play. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a lot of strategy to win. It was more of just like, hey, let's try different things out. Yeah. And that's kind of what Pop was. I can kind of tell that Pop that was his outlook on it and gave a lot of the hands-on duty to Becky, and she's used to it. I mean, she's coached in the G League. She's used to this chair. And it fits her well.
It did. I liked her out there. Her energy. She was really well versed for this position. I think she just came out there and she was just running the show. She was very vocal, and I like seeing that, especially on the sidelines with her again, interacting with some of these younger players. Because they're gonna need that. You see Coach Pop do that a lot, but he's not as let's say as nice as Becky when he talks to these guys. Usually he's yelling at them. He's pointing at them, and you can see he's very animated. Becky's more like, telling them exactly where she wants them to be at on the floor and what they need to do. So she has a different approach, but it doesn't mean that it's not as intense. It's just different,
Last summer, I got to see her coach in the summer league, and there was the game against Charlotte. That was one of the ones that I saw. And man, she was ripping. She's not afraid to rip anyone, but she was ripping Quindary, I think, in that game. Quite a bit. And she's not afraid, man. She knows her stuff. She knows her game. She knows the Spurs way. And she has all the trust backing her in the world from Pop and Timmy and all that. So it's all love, and she's doing a great job.
Yeah, so Jonas, you're a big Jakob Portal fan. Jakob Portal, I mean, what did you think of his performance in tonight's? I mean, not tonight's, but in today's scrimmage.
I mean, not quite enough for earning the starting job. I would say that. He wants. Look, he made his comments about looking for the right fit, the right opportunity, the whatever. He didn't feel like he was getting run. He didn't feel like he was getting minutes. Obviously, he got snubbed this last year for the starting center job by Trey Lyles. And I've said before, and other stuff that we've done, Joe, where, okay, there's no excuses now. Lyles is out. LaMarcus is out. And Zeller is brand new to the team. Luka is not coming in and playing center. So, Jakob, this job is yours. You're our starting center in Orlando moving forward. Do the most with it. I think that he did a better job than he has this last season, but I don't think that is quite starting potential yet, because when you have Jakob, what you lose is offensive versatility. You lose any perimeter shot, any mid-range shot. You lose anything away from the basket. And then because Jakob has to live near the basket, one of my knocks on him has always been that he doesn't rebound enough. For living and eating at the basket, he doesn't rebound enough. And I think today he finished with, I want to say it was, and you guys can correct me here if I don't have it up, but I think it was 8 rebounds. 7 rebounds. So he had 8 points and 7 rebounds, and he did better. But he should be a walking double-double. Granted, he didn't see an uptick in minutes. He still only had 16 minutes today. Everybody wants to see 30 from everybody, but there's not enough minutes in the game for 30 from everybody. And so it was better. Not quite what I want to see yet. Couple blocks, 8 points, 7 rebounds. It was his typical stat line, but the rebounds I saw a little uptick there, and so I was happy to see that.
Yeah, and just to go, and name some of the stats tonight, or in today's scrimmage game, should I say. You had Lonnie Walker with a team high 14 points. You had DeMar DeRozan with 8 points. Jakob Poeltl, 8 points. Derek White, 11. DeJounte Murray had 13. Bryn Forbes, that's your boy. He had 7 points tonight. You also had Keldon Johnson with 11, which I think he did a great job, for being part of that second unit. Keldon Johnson was solid with 11 points. Really impressed me. I got to say that this young man is one of the young players that I'm really keeping an eye on. I like this young guy, man. He's not afraid to mix it up. He plays great defense, and he just looks very comfortable out there on the court. I think he's one of the players that I'm most excited to watch as far as his development and what he's going to do in these scrimmage games and leading up to the regular, season 8 games that they're going to play out there in the bubble. This kid, I mean, he's something special, man. I'm really excited about his future with the Spurs. I mean, what do you think about him, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been saying it since September, man, and he's easily the best defender on the floor, and I saw that from watching him play twice in summer league. Doesn't take a genius to see how good this guy is. He can literally guard anybody, and I'm not saying that we're gonna put him on Giannis the whole game, but I don't know if you saw him D up anybody that was on the floor that he guarded
doesn't
today.
care.
I mean, he shut down a veteran, Chris Middleton, who's been doing this night in, night out, for I don't know how many years, was on the Olympic team this past summer.
Keldon's the honey badger.
And Keldon just doesn't care. Keldon just does not care who it is that's in his way. When Donnie DiVincenzo started lighting us up in the third quarter, boom, sub. The only one strategic sub we did make in the second half was putting Keldon on Donnie. After he hit like 2 or 3 buckets on us and really started spreading out this game, Spurs put Keldon on him. And then Keldon had to switch off of him a few times because they were running Donnie DiVincenzo off a couple different actions. But Keldon Johnson, I mean, he's the dog. I nicknamed him the Hound when I first saw him because he just attacks you, on the defensive end. And it's just, he's a special player, like you said. He's someone that we need to make sure that we have around for a very long time. And if Lonnie doesn't, here's my take on Keldon right now. If Lonnie, I know it was one of those games for everybody, but if he's going to be starting, I want him to produce more on the offensive end. I want Lonnie more aggressive, DeJounte as well. Because if those two guys are not putting it on the offensive end, I see a guy like Keldon just giving us a little bit more upside next to a guy like DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then maybe you can put a Bryn Forbes back in the starting lineup for some shooting or something if you need to, right? So Keldon gives you a lot of options from a coaching standpoint, but just as a Spurs fan, he's one of the key guys that we're going to need to have in our jersey for many, many years.
Rudy, our good friend Rudy Campos Jr., he's one of the host of Sweep the League podcast and the new show that's going to be coming up on 9:30 a.m. Called The Sports Time. He's saying Keldon Johnson is the future face of the franchise. He says, "Hello, is my mic on?" And then Jonas, Tim Rodriguez on YouTube says, "Jonas, your boy Forbes needs to get off this team. He's so bad on defense. Look, we can't make Bryn something he's not. Bryn is out there because of his shooting ability and his ability to knock down buckets when we need them. And I get that he's not consistent. I get that he's not good on defense. But if you were to take him out, who else are you going to insert that's going to give you those points? You know?
Here's my thing, man. Everyone wants to throw Bryn under the bus and Bellinelli under the bus. Everyone's looking at the Spurs like everybody on this team can shoot the dang ball consistently with accurate, like efficiently from game in to game out for the most part. Or shoot a three in general, and those are our two best players. Bryn came off the bench tonight and gave us 5 quick points. Derek White had 5 of the first 7 points. Then Bryn was the first sub in at 5 minutes into the game. Boom, boom, 5 more points. So we struggled. That lineup that we all want, it was Derek, DeJounte, Lonnie, DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl. Couldn't put the ball in the basket, okay, besides Derek White. So there's some things that the guys have to figure out. I believe in that lineup, don't get me wrong, but you can't appreciate the value that Bryn Forbes brings to this team. Shooting is a commodity in this NBA. You got to hold on to it like it's freaking gold. Let me tell you.
There you go.
And at that point, Bryn shoots it at a 40% clip. For career-wise, too. Like, that's not just over one season. That's not just 2 seasons. Since he's been in the league, it's a 40% clip. I liked to see him coming off the bench tonight because my whole thing is that because he's been put in that starting lineup over the last 2 years, we've been expecting more of him because he's a starter.
Yeah.
That's not his role. So to see him come out off the bench tonight, that's a better fit for him. And your bench guys aren't always your best defenders. Bryn is not. He's not. And I think that one of the things that doesn't help us is our youth at this point, as I said earlier, where oftentimes it's not just one guy who looks lost on that court. We did not play the zone very well today at all. And you run into those situations where your 4 or your 5 makes a bad switch when they're playing defense, and then you've got Bryn or Derek or Keldon down in the paint on somebody 6 inches taller than them. That's a lose-lose situation. It's just not going to happen. So as this team and develops together, that's the focus of this whole process in Orlando. It's all about development. So as they develop together, this is the first time we're really seeing the new with the old. The changing of the guard is this is the opportunity in Orlando because they're all there now. There's no other opportunity for them to be anywhere else right now. So you're going to see a little bit of the meshing, a little bit of the changing. It's nice. It's going to be great for somebody like DeJounte, who's been in San Antonio for the last couple of years, getting that influx of young talent to come in with him that can run the floor with him, that are dogs with him on both ends of the court. But now they've got to figure out how to play with each other because they haven't had that opportunity to really do so. And I understand that the two teams do practice together a lot, but practice as we're learning here today with the scrimmage, it's not the same. Even a scrimmage is different from an actual game. This is a process. Be patient with it. Bryn will find his role, but unfortunately, he's in a contract year. So lots of people there's going to be probably a 50-50 split on Spurs Twitter at the end of this year, whether it was good or bad that Bryn either stayed or stayed or left, right? And it's going to be the same thing that happened when we lost one Davis Bertans last year. Similar, I mean, forget the height. They both played similar roles, and both of them, their weakness was defense. Davis is not a defender, and I will fight anybody who tries to tell me he is. He's just taller than Bryn. That's the only thing. But they both were three-point specialists. Davis did not start most games. He came off the bench. That's his role. That's Bryn's role. We're going to get better. It's going to happen. Patience, everybody. Patience. Breathe. And we're going to have to make some decisions, but you've got to believe in this young core, and you're going to have to allow them to make mistakes. And if you're not going to, then turn off the game, wait 3 years, and then come back and bandwagon when we're actually contending.
Take your jerseys out of the trash and put them back on.
Or put them in the closet for right now, because this young group is going to need support moving forward in this city. And if we're going to want them to re-sign as their contracts become up, it's not just the on-court situation that they value. We understand that. That's why we always say it's hard to get free agents to come down to San Antonio. Well, we've got to give them a little bit more as a fan base. And if you don't want to be here, that's fine. That's 100% fine. Just come back when the sunny weather. Go away for the storm right now, because it's going to be a storm. The seas are rocky, because we're finding our balance, and there's going to be change. Come back in 3 years and wait and rock your silver and black when we're back in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, one of the things that I want to talk about, Rudy is in here too. Rudy's chiming in. Rudy says to you, Jonas, he says, my big problem with Bryn and Marco right now is these games don't count. You know what you've have with these guys, let them sit, or get 5 minutes. He says, get 5 minutes each until the games start to count. But he also says, but we lost Davis because Morris agreed to sign here, so we had to make room for him, correct? Not because Davis not because Davis did not want to be here.
It's not the Davis thing wasn't that he didn't want to be here or anything like that. We made a trade.
Yeah.
And whether there was a chance, because there wasn't pen to paper, there was always a chance Morris wasn't going to sign anyway, and we still decided to make that trade. So you can go back and look backwards all you want to, but I'm looking forward for this franchise. Okay? If you want to complain about the minutes that guys got today, one game back from in a cold, as the NBA is calling it, restart, you have to give everybody an opportunity to go out there and just get minutes. Jonas didn't play 38. Do you think that Bucks fans are bitching about that? No, because the point isn't for him to go out there and score 60 points right now. It's just for him to go out there and get back in game shape. I don't want the season starting, an actual start, in another week, and Brennan and Marco haven't gotten any run yet. That's a problem then, because when you're down by 6 and you need some 3-point support, you're bringing 2 cold-ass guys off the bench then, off the deep end of the bench, and trying to expect them, and then we're going to go off on them when they can't, when they're looking cold and it actually matters. So Spurs Twitter, make up your mind. What do you want? Do you want to just go out there and run Keldon, Lonnie, Quinn, Jonte, Derek, and just run them into the court and not make a run? Or do you want to actually maybe see what we can get going? I'm on the whole DeMar train of let's try to develop and win, because I think we have that opportunity. But what do we want? The Spurs told us what they're going to do. Now, what do we want moving forward? Because you can't have it both ways.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Robert?
No, I was gonna say let's talk about Derek White really quick. You
Yeah.
threw his name out there, and I was just so happening to be looking at his stat line, and in 20 minutes, he went 11 points. He went 4 for 7 from the field, 57%. He went for 4 from 3. It was a catch and shoot if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He went 2 for 3 from the free throw line. He had 3 rebounds, 5 assists to 2 turnovers. It's a 5-to-2 ratio. It's great. I'll take it any night. A steal, a block, 3 personal fouls in a role that's new to everyone. I mean, Derek White had a lot of responsibility tonight, and I think he took it, put it on his shoulders, and he's someone that deserves if there was like a game ball, I'd probably throw it to Derek right now.
Yeah. But, one of the things I wanted to talk about, even, I liked, let's say, Derek White's performance today. I thought he did a decent enough job, considering this was the first game back in, 4.5 months, something like that, So
I'll take the stat line, honestly, on any night.
Yeah, it's like he did a
great stat line.
He did a good job.
Yeah. That's why I was about to look at his stats this year. I want to see how many minutes he averaged this season. I don't think it was 20. I don't think he averaged 20 minutes this year.
I think he might have been somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 15 to 16 a game.
So what I'm saying is, you give Derek White more minutes, he's going to use them efficiently, on both sides of the floor. And to start this game, he was one of the guys that just, didn't have any rust. I felt like Derek White didn't have any rust. Keldon Johnson didn't care what day it was. He was just playing basketball today. Bryn Forbes came out hot. DeMar DeRozan kind of a little slow in the first, a little. He picked it up in the second quarter. Do y'all feel like we played better, in the terms of utilizing DeMar DeRozan in this way versus with LaMarcus Aldridge next to him?
I think that DeMar played more of that deferring basketball that we accused DeJounte of playing a lot. Knowing the focus of the Spurs in Orlando, I think that you actually saw him defer a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, look, this could just be a situation of he knows that even though he's not saying he knows that he's taking his talents elsewhere, he's just, okay, I'm here to have a good time with the guys. We'll see what we can do in Orlando, but I'm a free agent. I'm going to allow myself to be a free agent. I'm going to opt out after this year. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to do my own thing. Because this whole San Antonio experience isn't about me and my success anymore. They're at a different point than what I'm looking for. I'm already under contract here, so I'm going to play my role. I'm going to do what I have to. So I don't think the question is so much about, is this a good way to utilize DeMar? Because I don't think it is. But for what our purposes are, it's a good way to utilize DeMar. Does that make sense? With development being the focus of these other guys, then yes, we use DeMar the right way, but I don't think it's the right way to use DeMar as a star.
I think it's both. I think it's both, yes. It's just like a game or two away. You know what I mean? It's like a game or scrimmage or two away of running it a little bit more, getting it a little bit used to it. But I like it. I like DeMar 3/4 money, however you categorize it. It's a good look.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to focus on one thing in particular here before we start bringing the show to a close here, is the Spurs defense. The Spurs defense has always been the Achilles heel of the team because it's defensive minded. It has been a defensive minded team. They live and they die by the defense, and also they were living and dying by the 3-point shots in the past. Not so much now, but defense has always been a staple with Spurs basketball. What I saw in today's scrimmage game was the kind of the lack of defense that they had in the interior specifically. And I think it was more of a matchup problem, and the players that they had out there in the paint. The Spurs were obviously undersized. There's really nothing you can do about that. We don't have one LaMarcus Aldridge with us. We don't have Trey Lyles. We only have Jakob Poeltl. We have Drew Eubanks. We have Shizemi Metu, and we have Luka Samanic, who is very inexperienced at this point, So we don't really have a defensive anchor. I think what's going to happen is that this team is just going to have to play good all-around team defense in order to keep them in the game. And the minute that they start slacking, like we saw in tonight's scrimmage game, the wheels start coming off, and the other team starts capitalizing on points in the paint, start to go to the free throw line. The game starts to open up a little bit more. But one of the things that I did see is that Coach Bud, much like the Spurs, he's taken a page out of the playbook. You know, he was playing the team very effectively. They were good. They were really good at passing the ball. They were really good at floor spacing out there and identifying the mismatches and taking advantage of them, I thought, which is kind of, you know, stereotypical Spurs basketball, you know, because he was with the San Antonio Spurs. So it's good to see that the tradition continues, even though it's against an opposing team like the Milwaukee Bucks. But it's Spurs basketball that we're kind of seeing. Unfortunately for the Spurs, they're going to be, I think, on the losing end of that deal when it comes to defense, because without defensive anchors or anybody to really anchor down that interior and have like a legitimate shot blocker there, or somebody to kind of defend the rim other than a Jakob Poeltl, who's not going to see a whole lot of minutes, the other teams are going to take advantage of that. And I think that's exactly what happened tonight with the Spurs and the Bucks.
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's Jakob had a great opportunity tonight to show that he can do a few things. And to be honest, I think he kind of, you know, they put, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they put him on Jonas for the most of that first quarter. He ended up having
yeah, they had Rudy on Giannis. It was
but
Jakob was mostly on
in the beginning of the game.
Yeah,
Rudy didn't start. I think so. So it was Jakob always ended up having to pick him up, and in a half court he did really well. But it was when those opportunities where Giannis is coming down the lane in transition that Jakob needs to go ahead and like pick him up earlier. He would kind of wait for him at the rim. He would wait for him at the rim, and it's like, you don't do that. You do that to everybody else except Giannis. except Giannis, you know. And Giannis, you have to go out there and get him. But he showed that he can do a lot of things in this game, because there's a lot of times where he had to switch off and on. And I think we won the rebounding battle tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, without LaMarcus Aldridge and Trey Lyles, I think we had the edge by a few rebounds. So, I mean, realistically, the guards like Derek White and Keldon Johnson, some of these other guys have to go in there and kind of pick up the slack in that regard. But it was a good game. I don't think we can take too much out of it, but Jakob played well.
Yeah, Jakob played decent.
Well enough.
Yeah, enough. I would have liked to see a little bit more out of him, honestly, but it is what it is. It's a scrimmage game, you know? So, again, the focus, I think, was really on development. You know, we saw a lot of the youth, the younger players, get some minutes out there, which is what everybody has been clamoring to see all season. You know, we kind of saw that in the scrimmage game, and it was refreshing to see that, even though the outcome wasn't going to be what we wanted, but we knew that was important for the future of the franchise.
You know, I kind of like the zone look, to be honest, Jonas. I think we did well in the zone against Giannis, but it was when Rudy was in that zone. I remember thinking that a few times, like the whole team is in a zone except for Rudy, and Rudy was guarding Giannis, and that's when we gave up like 2 or 3 in the third quarter, 2 or 3 pick and rolls to him just cutting down the lane. And it was Rudy's switch. And I don't know if that was just a miscommunication or if that's something the coaches were trying to do. Hey, let's zone it up, like a box and one sort of thing where you just put a guy on Giannis, everyone else is in a zone. I don't know if that's what it was, but it didn't work for a while. Yeah,
it didn't work against Giannis so much, but there's a reason they call him the freak, right? Because
I think it will work against Giannis if no one is matched up. For some reason, Rudy was matched up and following him wherever he went. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of there was like 2 or 3 plays. I'm just talking about just like 2 or 3 plays. I'm not talking about the whole game.
Right.
But I remember it worked well for 2 positions. I think like 2 turnovers. They forced Milwaukee into 2 turnovers in that zone, and then something happened there with Rudy Gay, and it flipped on us.
Well, it might have been, the fact that he was able to get Giannis a little bit more into the foul trouble. Maybe that became the lesson from Becky, where she's like, go ahead, attack him a little bit more, because at this point he's already at 2-3 personal fouls. He had 4 by the half. Yeah. I think that
y'all saw how we never chased out to any of his threes. Y'all saw that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because we're not really buying that right now. He has that shot, so he can make you pay from that. From deep range, he does have it, but I think that they understood too that his focus was more about just getting in shape and going instead of, maybe because you can shoot 3-pointers, open threes all day in the gym if you want to. And that's not going to be a much different situation than from a game to practice that is going to translate fine. I think he wanted to get out there, get the heart rate up and be aggressive going through the lane to get back into just that movement. But I think that, and you guys mentioned him a couple of times here tonight, Derek White was the best defender on the court this evening, I think, or this afternoon. I think that, you just saw his basketball intellect right out of the gate. He picked up that early charge on Jonas, and that helped. Yeah. Again, you're trying to rack up fouls on him. Derek's never been one to shy away from getting in there and getting his hands dirty. So I understand why you guys want to say Keldon is arguably the best defender, but I think that Derek has that one still, and he's also the smarter defender because he just knows how to pick up those little things, the little things that can end up making a big difference in the game. And one of the things and I know we all want to see, the DeJounte Derek combination, and the question has always been, well, who's going to run the point off the bench? And I've always been of the belief that you just slide Derek over to the 1. Then when DeJounte goes off the court, you slide Derek to the 1 and let him cater into that second unit. And then you sub Derek out later on. We saw that today. The first sub out was DeJounte for Bryn Forbes. And you saw Derek slide over to that 1. And that really helps. And by bringing Bryn out there and combining him with Lonnie, you have 2 3-point threats. And Lonnie had a slow start, but and if anybody who just looks at tweets from the first half, they're going to say Lonnie had an awful game, but they're going to completely miss the adjustments that he made in the second half, and came out and scored like 8 consecutive points, two back-to-back 3-point shots, and then he hit from 2. So if he can get started a little bit earlier, then maybe you see that starting lineup really flourish the way that it's supposed to. But Derek White, MVP of tonight's game, on the Spurs side of things, he's the one. He looks the most ready. He's the leader. And you ask the question, Joe. You say, who's our defensive anchor? I don't think that it's in today's NBA. That doesn't fall to a power forward or a 5 like it used to for Timmy to anchor the Spurs defense. I think that it really comes down to a Derek White. If he can shut down, and tonight's game or today's game was not what's typical in the NBA, right? Where the star player for the other team is a power forward or a center. Yeah. Usually it's going to be guards. Or wings, where you can slide Derek onto those guys. And that's your defensive anchor. He can make a difference. We weren't about to sub Derek in the third quarter when this game was already gone. Oh, yeah. At that point, it was all about development. DeMar DeRozan, I don't think, saw any minutes after halftime.
There was no need to anymore.
Well, I mean, it was a 6-point game at half, so yes, but the focus the coaching approach, the coaching approach in the game, how they handled it, emphasized what they've already told us moving forward, that it's not going to be about getting the W right now, especially in a scrimmage where a win is meaningless. It might help you build momentum, but it's meaningless right now. Just get out there. It's about developing the guys, get everybody run, and condition right now. Scrimmaging is conditioning and development, and then we'll build into more development.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go ahead and bring this episode of the Spurs Takeover to an end. We just kind of wanted to give you a recap of what we were seeing out there in the scrimmage, and it was good to see Spurs basketball once again, even though it wasn't a nationally televised game. This game was something that you could pick up if you had a league pass with NBA.com. You could go to NBA TV. I believe they had it there in select areas. I think it was blacked out in almost every other location that really meant something to most Spurs fans. So they probably got to see the game, but it was sporadic here and there. There are ways that you can still watch your NBA games, but that's neither here nor there. So this is not the show for that, Jonas. We can't reveal our hacks, but You need to go and get a league pass if you don't have one, so you can catch the scrimmages. I know that they're going to have, I think the Indiana Pacers game is going to be televised on Fox Sports Southwest. So if you have that, you can catch the game. You know, it's going to be nationally syndicated on Fox Sports Southwest. And of course, I believe they're going to have the play-by-play action with WOAI 1200 AM here locally in San Antonio. So for Robert Trejo and Jonas Clark, I'm Joe Garcia, and thank you for listening and watching another episode of the Spurs Takeover. So until next time, we'll see you guys later, and go Spurs go.